The idea behind the show is simply asking guests what they would tell a stranger on a plane if they were sitting next to them and the stranger asked them for advice.
The scenery is passing very fast, but the seer is constant. The one who's seeing is the same.
Let me appreciate you for asking a question that I haven't been asked after 2,500 or so interviews over the years.
Is you have to drop the ego, which is everyone's greatest obstacle.
In 2008, Grant and I had been married for 4 years. I was pregnant with my first child. The economy was collapsing, and we were on the verge of losing everything financially.
So, hello, everybody. It's Corey Poirier back with the latest edition of the Enlightened Passenger Show. And I'm super excited to have another Enlightened passenger with us today. So today's passenger is Lisa Stamper. And Lisa, where I'd like to start, and I say this often, but it's true. I know it's a big question to lead in on, whereas my long form show, I have time to ease into a question like this. But this word that we hear so often, legacy. What does the word legacy mean to Lisa Stamper?
Ooh, I love that. So I feel like that the word legacy is all about the impact, the influence, what you are leaving behind as a remembrance or as a contribution that you made while you're living.
So now, if I go one step further into that question, what are your thoughts? So here's what happens a lot whenever I ask that question, not even on this show in particular, but over the years. I'll have some people that'll say, legacy, I don't have any control over it. It'll just be decided when I'm gone. I like to say it's not just what happens when you're gone, it's also what people say behind your back when you're not around about you. And I say that knowing that it's none of our business what they say. But at the same time, I think if a large percentage of people say something about you, it's probably a reflection of the legacy you've been building. That's one other angle. Another angle, though, is I know some people say if I don't direct my legacy and I'm not intentional about it, it won't be as good of a legacy as it could be. So I've just given you kind of like three different views of legacy. What is, in terms of out of those, what does it mean to you? Like, is it something that you actively try to be intentional about? Is it something that you just say, it'll figure it out behind me as I do my thing? I'd just love to hear how you kind of bring it into your life, if at all.
So what I'm hearing actually is that your legacy is your essence. So I'll give my dad as an example. He has passed over and he's left this incredible legacy just from being who he is. The integrity, the authenticity, it's just literally just his essence that he is. So yes, we can be intentional if we want to be. He wasn't intentional. He was just acting from his self of who he fundamentally was. So I believe true legacy comes from your essence of who you are.
I love that. And it makes me think of my grandfather who, I always say, like, I don't necessarily think this is necessary to be a part of your legacy, but my grandfather at his funeral they had to do, I think, 3 wakes or whatever they call it, because they had people lined like around the block type, not block, but like outside the door, and like hundreds of people wanted to pay their respects to him. And to your point, he didn't say, I'm trying to build a legacy. That would, like, he never even thought that in his mind at all. Like, it was just like, I'm who I am. But people loved him so much because of who he was that they wanted to show that support. And he had done stuff like he built a giant fiberglass space shuttle replica to scale with a grade 3 education, and so like he did things like that he never told a soul about. We had to tell people about it, and that was his character. Like, a lot of people said, and this, I kind of struggled with it because I don't know if it's a good representation of him, but people said he was as close to a saint as they'd ever seen in their life. And it's when it's your own family, it's kind of like, are we just kind of biased or what have you? But he was just one of those guys that was kind, gentle. Every kid loved him. He never, I don't remember him ever saying a harsh word about anybody. That kind
Same
of
with my dad. It sounds like that you're explaining my dad to a T.
That's awesome. And so I think, like, to your point, so you made me think of him so I guess they're both probably alike, because it made me think about how he didn't do anything but his legacy was carved out just the same. With my grandfather, I wish I had a quick picture to show people, because since we are video as well, I don't think I can find it quick. But I will say that he looked like, everybody called him Papa Smurf. So for visual, like he had the beard, and he actually looked like, when I watched the Smurfs years later, and I was like, I can see that. And my girlfriend, who's never met him but saw his picture, she goes, I could totally see that. So like Papa
Wow.
Smurf is the closest. He's like the real life live animation, or what do you call it? Live action version of Papa Smurf. So,
Love it.
but anyway, having said all that, yeah, I love that. The idea that we can be intentional about it, but also at the same time, we can just do it. We can just be who we are and let the chips fall where they may.
Yes, I love that.
Me too. So let's go to the other scenario. About the what do you call it? I want to say I was going to say a different word, but I'll say we hear another word that and by the way, I didn't think I could do this that quickly.
Oh, so sweet. Oh my gosh, he's adorable.
Can you see the Papa Smurf thing though?
Yeah, I can.
Like, I mean, obviously he has a hat on and stuff there, but it's a different, but yeah, he felt like Papa Smurf. So for people, that's what my grandfather looks like, because you don't see pictures of him very often. So having said that, I was distracted because I was like, I think I can do this. All I typed, you know what I typed? I typed in search, I typed Grampy. That's just what I typed and found him. So having said that, I wanted to move to the next area, which is this word, that was a word, legacy, a big word. Another big word is success. And just like legacy, as I start exploring that word with people, I find success has as many different meanings as there are people. So what does success as a word mean to you?
So success as a word means to me allowing what is in you to come out. Allowing yourself to be seen, allowing your specific abilities and uniqueness and quirkiness and all of the things that make you you, because we all have special abilities and such that we are meant to use. So to me, if we, and it really comes down to the same as legacy, if we are who we are fundamentally at the fundamental level, just being ourselves, to me, that is success, because then you're doing things you're passionate about. You're being the way that you are. You're being who you're meant to be. To me, that's so fulfilling, and it feels like it completes your destiny and allows you. I feel like that's why you're born.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's powerful. Yeah. What about, I'll go the other direction then. What about, this is my third word for the day. This is like the Mr. Rogers. Remember you said the word for the day? This is my third word for the day. Purpose and or passion. I don't think they're the same word. So even though I'm kind of lumping them together, for me, Lisa, passion is what you do. Purpose is why you're doing it. So passion could be photography, stand-up comedy, music, playing music, what have you. Purpose is why are you doing it? What are you contributing to the world through it? And so having said that, I call the two of them together vitamin P. You may have heard me say that before. It's the vitamin you can't buy in the stores, but it's the most important vitamin you'll ever take. But
100%.
With all that context and backstory, what does the idea of purpose or passion, you pick either or both, what does that mean to you? So another third word, what does it mean to you? And then we'll move on in a different direction.
Okay, so to me, well, it's kind of the same. That's exactly what I was feeling. It's like allowing inside of you, allowing yourself to explore. So for passion, to explore your natural creativity or your natural curiosity, because it will lead you to things that you're naturally good at, which then builds so much passion, because there's all this joy in the creation or in the exploration or in the curiosity around it. So to me, it's truly following what is within your heart. And we are gifted those passions within us. And actually, I teach that a big part of our passions are part of our purpose, because we are meant to be fulfilling these special abilities or these curiosities or these things that we're naturally good at inside of ourselves. Are supposed to be expressing them to help serve the greater good, the things that we're naturally good at, which again, because it essentially raises the collective consciousness, because when you're in a state of passion, that creates a vibration of joy around you, which raises the vibration. So then, and which makes people happy, right? Joy is the highest vibration that you can achieve. So to me, when you are doing your passions and you're following your purpose, which are an innate part of you, it's like this win-win, boom, bada bing, done, fun, amazing thing that happens. And truly, when we're passionate about something, I know that you can attest to this, like it gives you confidence. It's like, wow, I'm naturally good at this. Like, my husband is amazing at sports. I'm terrible at sports, but I'm really great at like intuition and all that kind of stuff, right? So we all have these natural abilities within us that we're actually supposed to use. And we're also taught in our society that we have to work hard, or it has to be the struggle, where if we're following our passions and our purpose, we move into a state of flow and ease and joy. And again, that helps to raise the collective vibration as well. So it makes the world a better place.
I love it. And so there's two questions I want to make sure I ask you before before we wind down. We're not there yet, but before we wind down. But I just realized something else I wanted to run by you is a couple of quotes that I've shared years ago. And I'd like to get your take on it, because these two quotes had a lot of engagement. I'll say it that way, both good and bad. And there's no good and bad, but both like positive towards my thoughts and negative. So I shared this quote one time that I said, love is always the answer. And I had a couple of people try to sort of explain why it wasn't always the answer. So then I changed it to love is almost always the answer. And then I had people that were on the hardcore side of it, it is always the answer, say, why did you change that? Why did you bow down? It is always the answer. And so I would love to get your take on it. Do you think, and of course, I know it's a very vague situation because it could be to any question, really, like, somebody that has hurt you, is love the answer, loving them back? Is love the answer for somebody that you maybe feel sorry for because of the way they treat people, or what have you? But what are your thoughts around this idea of love always being the answer?
Well, I love that love is always the answer, because love is a high vibrational state. Love can include forgiveness, acceptance. It can include hearing and valuing somebody, even if you don't necessarily agree with them. It can include, like, I think we are taught we aren't taught unconditional love in our society. We are taught you will receive love if you are good, if you listen, if you do all of these things. To me, love is the answer to everything, because then it can solve wars. It can solve all of the differences, because if you come from a loving, open heart space, you're in a place of non-judgment, you're in a place of acceptance, you're in a place of openness. As soon as you come from love is not the answer, you go to a place of control, you go to a place of force, you go to a place of manipulation sometimes to try and get others to agree with you, where truly love is allowing everything and everybody to be who they are and being witness to that, because they are however they are, for whatever they've been through, for whatever reason. And if we can accept that, we can help the world as well.
I love it. And I love that answer about love. What about this one? And then I'll move to my two main questions I want to ask you. But what about this quote that I shared, which again had a lot of traction? And I'll tell you the context. Like, there's context behind these quotes. For this one, the context was I've been interviewing a lot of high achievers who had always said, and some variation of, whenever I have the book out, I'll be so happy, or whenever this happens, I'll be so thrilled. And where it came from is me experiencing that it wasn't always the case. So I was like writing this book. I worked on it for a number of years. I say number, like 3-4 years, called The Book of Why and How. Released it actually 4 years ago, probably now. But I will tell you, Lisa, while I was writing it, I enjoyed writing it. So I'm not going to take away that, but I enjoyed writing it. But it was like a race to get it done. Like, it was all about the end result of holding this book in my hand. And when I finally held the book in my hand, my first thought within seconds was next. Meaning, what am I going to do now? Like, it was like I didn't even have there wasn't even anything in me that felt, wow, I made this. And so now I actually probably had more thrills from before the book was in my hand, but I thought everything was going to happen when the book was in my hand for some reason. And I'd written anthology books before, but I don't know what I thought was going to happen, but it was like the heavens open up because I've written this book and nothing changed. And like I say, more so what changed, I guess, if anything, was that I realized it wasn't the answer. So why I say this is because I started to discover that this is a little known and little talked about thing among influencers. And we're talking high level influencers where they are typically, and not all influencers like this, but I found a lot where they're not really necessarily satisfied with the destination. And so what it came to me starting to understand and trying to live, and I have lived it since, is this quote: what if the journey is really the destination?
Well, funny that you say that.
Okay.
Because that's exactly what I was hearing. Because I always tune into guidance. I'm always tuning into that higher wisdom to see what wants to come through. And that's what I heard. It is, we are taught or conditioned to think, always achieve, achieve, achieve. And like, I was literally just talking to my last client right before I got on this call about this. She's like, but I'm on to the next thing. And then if this happens, and this will happen. And it's like, no, this is the journey. Allow it to be the journey. This is it. It's almost part of like the lotus opening and becoming. You're becoming during the process. But I have to tell you, I was exactly the same way. I was like, oh, I got to write this book. Now I got to do this talk. Now I got to do this thing. And I have to do this thing. Now I have to do this. It is truly comes from a place from searching outside of yourself for fulfillment, acceptance, and validation is what it feels like. Where if we can have that inside of ourselves, this love and approval of ourselves, then we won't necessarily chase it outside of ourselves. And then we just follow our own flow of a natural creation that bubbles up inside of us that wants to be birthed into the world, as opposed to push, force, struggle, strive, go, 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 go. But the very same thing happened to me when I wrote my first book too. I thought it was going to be this big momentous thing. And I was like, well, I guess it's this next thing. Well, I guess it's going to be this, right? And then when it wasn't this, so I was on the very same thing. So I actually went really deep into this with my guides and with my clients as well. And that was the answer that I got. If we can find the fulfillment and that love within ourselves and that approval within ourselves, and then allow ourselves to be led from that place of creativity, it's a completely different space.
I love that. And so the main question I've been building towards, as you know, is the question I call the passenger question. It's pretty simple. Sit next to a passenger on a plane. Let's call them a stranger. They lean over and say, hey, I need some advice. What do you got? What do you think you might tell said stranger?
Ooh, I love this. I love this. I feel like I would tell people energy doesn't lie. Everything is energy. And we need to trust ourselves and trust our gut and trust our innate wisdom and learn. If you don't, I mean, society teaches us to discount or not believe or not follow through or not give our inner wisdom merit, or to, I think I said doubt it, right? Where that is actually the path that will lead you to the path of most resistance to help you, right? We're always being led, guided, and shown the way. And I think the best thing that you can do is be listening to your inner guidance. Energy doesn't lie. Follow the flow, and then you can get exactly where you need to be, what is going to bring you the fulfillment, what you're supposed to do here in the least amount of resistance possible and the most joy.
I love it. So Lisa, we have less than 3 minutes left. I got to ask you as well, maybe the most important question for those that have been listening and want to follow you further and understand how to connect with you and all that kind of good stuff, see what you have going on. Is there a place or a hub where you would send people who want to continue this journey and follow along with you?
Yeah, so my website is always a great place because I have stuff on there, which is www.lisastamper.com. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, I am on Facebook. I love giving back. So every Sunday, I do a free intuitive reading with the intention that it will help whoever sees it align to navigate the current energies and align to their highest path. So I have that for people there, but there's always lots of good, fun stuff going on. And I love connecting with people. I love helping people to come home to their true selves and their intuition and their inner wisdom and their inner knowing. So I would love to connect with any of you.
Amazing. So Lisa Stamper, thank you for joining me on this journey. Thank you for being today's Enlightened Passenger. And thank you for being everything that you are. Always a pleasure. And with your permission, I'll call it To Be Continued.
To be continued. Thank you, Corey.